Welcome back. For this week's fly, we're going to go with a classic Prince Nymph. This nymph, like the other two that we've done so far, have been around forever, it seems. One of the first that I learned how to tie years ago. But we're going to go ahead and get started. And we have a Daiichi 1560 size 12 in the vise. I'll tie these in probably 12 to 18, I think is probably the most common that I'll use. But when I'm tying on these videos, I normally go to the bigger sizes. That way it's easier for the camera to pick up, easier for the viewer to see. So I just have a 7/64 brass bead on here. It's not tungsten or anything. It's just a regular 7/64 bead, and then I'm going to throw it in here. Just a couple wraps of 15 thousandths lead wire, and the wire, like I've explained in the other videos that I use the bead heads for, the wire is just to secure your bead head in place. And we're gonna try not to knock stuff over here. We're going to go with our same old rusty brown 8/0 thread that I almost always use. Like I've explained before, I don't feel at all that this detail is important. Some flies, and I'll explain that later on, you will see me change up on nymphs. You will see me change up the color. Some flies, it's a trigger point, I think. So I do think it is important in certain flies, and it may just be all in my head. But you know, as I go through and I do my sulfur nymph and you know, maybe the ISO, I do have certain colors of thread that I use but for the general purpose nymphs, for 99% of the nymphs, I just use this rusty brown or whatever's on the bobbin at the time. I don't feel that it's a deal breaker at all. So, like I said, Daiichi 1560 size 12 and a 7/64 bead, or you know, 2.8 millimeter for my buddies across the pond. And we're just going to go ahead and peel off, and actually cut these. We're just going with 2 brown Goose Biots. And as I hold these up, you can see that there's a natural taper, or a natural turn to them. They want to turn this direction. So you're going to bring these in the opposite direction. And as I put them in my hand here, you can see where the taper is going to wind up going away from one another. And let's see if I can get this in a better background. There you can see it. That shows up a little better. So it gives the imitation of a, you know, a split tail section if you want. You can tie these in together if you want, but I'm going to just tie these in separately. That way I make sure that I get them lined up how I want, seeing this one needs to be pretty since it's on camera. But if this were just a fly going into my box, well, it probably would have been done already because I've been running my mouth for the first 2-3 minutes of this video. But I would have tied the tails in together and saved time, because you can tie a couple of dozen of these in an hour if you really want. I mean, it's a quick pattern, but yet it is very effective. So when I do tie these, I tend to tie a bunch of them. You know, I'll tie a couple rows in different sizes. And I'd like to get that to rotate just slightly, but I know it's going to be on camera, so like I said, we're making it a little bit prettier than what it would be if it were just going into my fly box. Alright, so for the sake of time, I'm going to quit picking here, and we're going to call that good. As you can see, our tail kind of comes out and has that little split to it, Now we're going to take this and work this just up to where our lead's at, and this is just for a little bit extra bulk. Or not really bulk, it's helping out with the taper. Now, for the length of these tails, I go a little bit shorter on these than I do most other mayfly nymphs. It's probably half the body length. I just like them a little bit shorter. If they go getting too long, they just look out of place to me. So I keep these a little bit shorter. And then we're going to grab just some extra small wire. And this is just a brass wire. And we're going to go ahead and get that tied in. Then we'll get our body materials. So we're going to take 3 strands of Peacock Herl. Just go ahead and break off the very tips of them. That's a real brittle point right there. And if you go putting any tension in whatsoever when you're tying that in, they'll bust off on you. So leave your tips in to where they line up just about to where you left off with your lead, and then start your wraps. Make sure that I have things covered up. We look good. Hey, quit making so much noise over there. That's what she thinks of that. So just one wrap right in front of the next, all the way up to your eye. And you can see we have a little natural taper in our body here. Not a deal breaker if you don't have it. It's just, you know, I mean, if you want to tie consistent flies, that's one thing that you're looking for, but I think that a good drift will catch more fish than a good taper, personally. Like my friend John Stoyanov told me, he's a phenomenal fly tyer, phenomenal nymph fisherman. It matters more where your fly's at in the water than what you're using. And you know, after fishing with him and fishing with some other really good fishermen, you come to learn that that is the absolute truth. Focus more on where your fly's at in the water than what you're fishing, and you'll be picking up more fish. So what we're going to do next is find a good dyed brown partridge feather. And we're going to do something a little different with this. I normally don't tie them this way, but we'll give it a shot here, and I messed that one up. So, like I said, I normally don't tie them this way, but we're going to try something a little different. We're going to do this more like a soft hackle than anything. If I can find a good feather, I'm kind of getting down to the bottom on this one. That one's shit too. I'm going to have to edit that out. Well, who would have guessed it'd be so tough to find a good feather here. Anyhow, so I'm just going to take this right from the tip. And we're going to tie this in from the tip. Just peel a couple fibers back and tie that in and trim off your excess. I'm going to throw a real quick half hitch in here just to keep my thread from moving on me. I'm already wasting enough time looking for feathers. Finding tools that I need. I don't need to retie in another feather here, so we'll do a quick half hitch to eliminate that possibility. So we're just going to take this right around then, probably just 1.5 wraps, and that's going to be it. Don't worry about those couple of wild ones on the top. We're going to trim those off anyhow. And then go ahead and tie that off and trim off your excess. A couple of those may have gone a little long on me, but we're not going to get too picky. So I'm going to go through on the top here and I'm going to cut these off so I have room for my overwing. Like I said, normally I would just take and throw in 2 clumps of brown hackle, throw them there, and that's my legs. I call that good. But this one's going to be on camera. We're going to try and sexy it up a little bit, make it look a little bit better than what you'd find in my fly boxes. So the last step for this is we're going to take 2 white or cream Goose Biots, and we're going to run these just shy of the length of our body. And what I'm going to do is crisscross these. And I'll continue explaining here. If you crisscross them, it reduces their tendency to want to move on their own for some reason. It's just like when you have tension on both of the biots pulling down onto the hook, they don't want to rotate as much. And as I'm saying that, I'm bumping it with my hand and it's rotating. But like I said, I'll get this one on here and then adjust how we want them. Adjust that, bring that one back a little bit, make sure that they're on top. Everything looks good, and we're going to go ahead and tie this off. There it is. Go ahead and get that tied off, and if you want to, you can throw a dab of glue on there, what have you. And then just go ahead and trim these, peel this back and trim it and trim. And before I take the picture for this fly, I'll make sure that I get that cleaned up and everything looks better. But there you have it. That is your Prince Nymph, minus a little bit of trimming that I have to do on the right behind the bead. But there's your Prince Nymph. If you got any questions or comments on this one, or would like to see me maybe do this without fumbling over so many words, maybe we can shoot this one again. But like I said, there's the Prince, and thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you on next week's fly.